Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Korra news update video. I've got two things to talk about today, and yeah, I'll just get straight into them. First up, we have a new trailer for Book 2 Spirits, but it's pretty questionable if you can call it new. Um, I didn't even put up a news post and decide about it because there's like one new thing in the trailer, and it's literally just a image of Korra comes up on screen and she says something along the lines of like "I'm in" or something like that, like she's agreeing to something, and that's it. She's in her book two like outfit sort of thing, and she's agreeing to something. That's it. It's all you see in the trailer. It's literally 1 second. Um, Other than that, it's all stuff we've seen in the other trailers. So they've clearly got their like trailer content down. Like we got a ton of new content from the original like 2.5 minute trailer. We've got the like 1 minute 10 second trailer. That was the second one we saw, and then there's this one, which is like I think 30 seconds. But again, features similar content. So I doubt we're going to see much new stuff until the show actually begins. So yeah, so it's one of these things where like look up an image of Korra from that trailer, but it's not even worth watching because it's just like 1 second. So there's that. It's nice to see Nick putting out like multiple trailers, but again, like when there's nothing different, what's the real point? Next one is much more interesting. That Nick and Moore once again. Yes, they don't post sources. Yes, you can't quite believe them, but most of the time they are right, and though none of their stuff so far has yet to be proven. They're saying that episode 5 of Book 2 Spirits, K205, is going to be called Peacekeepers. So they're going along with the fact that they're going with September 13th, Book 2 Spirits premiere of Rebel Spirit and the Southern Lights. Then they're saying the 20th there's going to be Civil War Part 1. The 27th is going to be Civil War Part 2, and then the I think 4th of October there's going to be the Peacekeepers. So makes sense, they're all a week apart. Yeah, after the initial two 1 hour premiere, so it makes sense. There's obviously not going to be a break in the show that early. I think it is probably going to be a 1 hour premiere, even though it's not fully confirmed, because as I said before, it makes complete sense to do it for book 1. I think it's going to work well for them to not just do Rebel Spirits, just to have a more kind of action-packed, kind of in-depth opening, and then go straight into the first episodes as Civil War. So, that's going to work well for them. Because even like Rebel Spirits, from what I've seen of it, seems to kind of set up a Civil War type thing already. But I suppose the main thing to like talk about is the Peacekeepers. Does it sound right as an episode title? And just looking at the titles, it does, because there's a 2-part Civil War thing. So we see most of whatever battle that is, probably Tonrak against Unilac, North versus South. I assume maybe Spirits will be involved somewhere. And then we see in the trailer that the United Forces, it appears, like get involved somewhere in this. So I assume they're the Peacekeepers maybe of that title, or else it's maybe something more like Korra as the Avatar as a Peacekeeper or something like that. Maybe the Spirits themselves are Peacekeepers. But something along those lines, as like, okay, you've had your 2-part war episodes, and then you go into Peacekeepers, which kind of resolves the war or something like that, to create peace, or else it's the kind of final part of the battle, the end of it, and so on. It makes sense, I think, as a title, Peacekeepers. So at this stage, if Nick and Moore are correct, we now know basically half of the episode titles for the book. We have obviously episode 1, Rebel Spirits, episode 2, The Southern Lights, episode 3, Civil Wars Part 1, episode 4, Civil Wars Part 2, and then Peacekeepers. We also know Beginnings Part 1 and Beginnings Part 2 are her 2 episodes that are rumored to take place as either episodes 7 and 8 or 8 and 9, I think, so far. None of those are confirmed, but I think they've said that it's not the end of the season. It's somewhere past the halfway point of the season. So it's either in somewhere in those 3 episodes. So the big thing I'm going for is that I think up to episode 5, which we pretty much know the episode titles for, I don't think Korra's going to be in the spirit world for more or less any of that. I think that's sort of those episodes, I think, lead up to her eventually finding out the story of Juan in Beginnings Parts 1 and 2. Because I assume Korra would be involved somewhere in a civil war, or else it's the civil war going on that lead to her going into the spirit world to get some information on how to stop a war. For me, the big question would be, when exactly does this basically spirit invasion happen? Like, we see one spirit attack in Rebel Spirit, and we know there's an attack of a few more at some stage as well, which is maybe episode 2. But when do they all attack and like they come into play as the kind of big villains of the season? Maybe that's what I'm wondering. What happens, and what exactly makes Korra decide that she has to go into the spirit world? How does Janora come into play? All this sort of stuff I think still has to come into play, but it's interesting. And this is the sort of news I think that we could have used like a couple of months ago, because realistically, none of these episode titles spoil anything, especially when like the bio for Unilac and Tonrak already spoil that there's going to be a war at some point. You know, them saying that 2 of the episodes are called Civil War aren't really going to make that much of a difference, because you know, if they're that worried about spoilers, don't put spoilers in the titles. That sort of way, because like I think there's a lot more speculation to be had now just because of episode placements and when they're going to take place. So it's interesting going in and like having more or less half of the episode titles. And I assume Nick and Moore will continue to keep putting out these episode titles. In regards to complete confirmation, I assume we'll have information on the premiere probably tomorrow or Saturday, because most of the like big TV guide websites that you can trust, and I think most TVs go about 2 weeks on in terms of like how far you can go ahead. So I assume we'll know the full details of that premiere by the end of this week, maybe going to the start of next week, and we'll have confirmation if indeed it is a 2-part premiere or just a 1-part premiere. I'm inclined to believe Nick and Moore for everything they're saying, because at the end of the day, if they get a lot of this stuff wrong, no one's ever going to believe them again, I think. And I don't see why they put out false information anyway. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I suppose this news video ended up being a kind of book 2 speculation video once again, which is a bit odd considering I said I wasn't going to speculate that much after the video yesterday, but that's what little bits of new information can do, I think. Just finding out that episode 5 is called Peacekeepers, and that leading to like a lot of stuff with the other titles, it's interesting, I think. So I'm going to end it here. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this news. Thank you for watching. Podcast on the weekend, on Sunday, Avatar Online Podcast episode 65, I think. So yeah, we're quickly going up in terms of podcast episodes. Should be myself, Troy, maybe Callum, maybe Peter. Again, I'm not really sure, but we'll talk about all this news. We'll be discussing the episode 313, The Firebending Masters, and we'll have a few listener questions to answer, as well as talk a little bit about book 2 as well, I think. So yeah, Korra Roundtable is coming up on the podcast soon as well. Reviews on my channel starting, all this sort of stuff. So definitely keep an eye on my channel coming up. Should have a ton of Korra content coming out. But for now, thanks for watching this news video, and bye.